broadcast of the Minneapolis Budget Committee will now begin.
Good afternoon. My name is Lene Palmisano. I'm the chair of the Budget Committee, and I'm going to call to order this regular committee meeting for Tuesday, November 16th. I'd like to note for the record that this meeting has remote participation by council members and city staff as authorized under the Minnesota Open Meeting Law, Section 13D.021, due to the declared state of local public health emergency. I will also note that the city will be recording and posting this meeting to the city's website and YouTube channel as a means of increasing public access and transparency. This meeting is public and subject to Minnesota Open Meeting Law. At this time, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll to verify the presence of a quorum.
Councilmember Reich.
Here.
Gordon.
Here.
Cunningham.
Present.
Ellison. Osman.
Here.
Goodman.
Present.
Jenkins.
Here.
Cano. Bender. Schrader.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Fletcher.
Here.
Councilmember Ellison. Bender. Chair Palmisano.
Present.
There are 10 members present.
Thank you. Please let the record reflect that we have a quorum. I also know that Councilmember Khanna will be joining us at 2 p.m. when her other meeting concludes. Colleagues, today's meeting is the first of 3 formal hearings to invite the public to share with us their ideas, concerns, and suggestions about the mayor's recommended 2022 budget. We will be conducting 2 additional public hearings as in prior years, and those have been noticed to the public and included on the council's published calendar. The next public hearing after this will be Wednesday, December 1st, beginning at 6:05 p.m. That is the Truth in Taxation hearing that is required by state law. The third and final public hearing will be on Wednesday, December 8th at 6:05 p.m. These hearings will be held at adjourned meetings of the full City Council, not at this committee. We anticipate that the full council will take final action on the proposed 2022 budget following its public hearing on December 8th. So before I open up the public hearing, I will invite our budget director, Amelia Kruver, to give us a short overview presentation and just to help frame the context of this for the public. Ms. Kruver.
Hello, thank you, Chair Palmisano. Like you said, I hope to just give a brief presentation summarizing what's in the mayor's recommended budget before we start hearing from the public. There we go. Thank you. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So overall, across all funds, our city's budget is growing by 7% this year from the 21 adopted into the mayor's recommended budget. And that's on the spending side. Similarly, on the revenue side, if you go to the next slide, we are growing by 6.7% across all funds. The difference between those accounts for some use of fund balance as well as other one-time sources like ARP dollars in the mayor's recommended budget. I'll note on this page, you can see a pretty large difference in our special revenue funds, which is that orange bar. Special revenue funds is where we deposit our sales tax revenues. So you can see the impact of the pandemic as well as our projected steady recovery into 2021 for those revenues, which were the most heavily impacted by the pandemic. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So zooming in just on our general fund, which the largest source of revenue for the general fund is our tax levy. We're looking at an increase into 2021 or 2022, where we are going to be bringing back some of the FTEs lost in 2020. And you can see again that similar climb back from the budget cuts of the recession into 2022 across all of our spending categories. I'll note also that our expenditures are slightly higher on the transfers. That's the green section because there are some one-time transfers programmed into the budget this year that will not be ongoing. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Looking at the revenue side, we see a similar dip in 2021 and a steady climb out of the recession in 2022. I'll note again that transfers are increased in 2022 on the revenue side as well, and that's to factor in our use of ARPA spending, American Rescue Plan Act spending, I'll say. And we're going to talk a little bit more about those details on the next slides. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Thank you. So this is our property tax levy and the 5-year outlook. If you look on that bottom line, that's giving you the overall year-to-year increase. And in 2022, the mayor has recommended and the BET has approved a max levy increase of 5.45%. The lines above it detail each part of our levy, including the park board, the municipal building commission, the Board of Estimate and Taxation, and some other pension-related levies that we include in our overall property tax levy. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So this just shows the math on our general fund, how we are balancing the budget in the mayor's recommended 2022 budget. The general fund portion of the levy is increasing by 6.1% this year. Other parts of our levy are not increasing, and that's how we get to an overall increase of 5.45%. I'll note that we are adding back some of the services and the FTEs lost at the city over the last year due to budget cuts in our core service rebuilding change items. More detail can be found on how we're adding back people and projects to each city department in the overall budget book. But that's about 10 million on the whole. There's strategic investments of 16 million in the general fund. And that is all being balanced out on the revenue side by that increase in sales or in property tax that we just talked about, transfers from the American Rescue Plan Act funds as revenue replacement also help get us to our balanced budget in the general fund in 2022. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So this chart really shows a simplified look at our 5-year plan. One of the challenges that we had in our budget this year was how to use one-time resources from the federal government wisely without setting ourselves up for a fiscal cliff in the future when those sources go away. So in this bar chart, the green portions show our own source revenues. So those are the revenues that we will always have, including our property tax, as well as other general fund revenues from fines and license fees. The light blue background is showing our base spending. So that just shows the approved budget from 21 pushed forward into the out years, accounting for known increases in salaries, health insurance, and things like that. So you can see from this graph, looking just at the green bars, that we would not have a balanced budget using our own source revenues until about 2025. This layering on the use of cash as well as ARP, which is the purple and golden part of that bar chart, allow us to add back some of the capacity that was reduced in 21 and make sure that by the time we get to 2025, we've seen revenues recover and we will be able to maintain the ongoing spending included in the mayor's budget without drastically reducing spending and without drastically increasing the property tax levy. And so you'll see the percentage numbers in the middle of that page, the 6.11%, 5.7%, 5.5%. That indicates our assumptions about property tax levy in the general fund. And the next slide down, we'll talk about in the overall property tax levy. Thank you. So you'll look at the bottom line, and that shows you that though the general fund levy, we assume a little bit of a higher growth rate, our overall property tax, we're assuming being at 5% or under in looking into our out years, 23 and beyond. And this helps us make sure that we are planning well to use those one-time sources from the federal government, that we will be able to maintain a balanced budget in our general fund in 25 when those resources go away. So this was an important part of this year's budget. Go ahead and go to the next slide. All right, and so that summarizes my overview of the mayor's recommended 2022 budget. I would recommend visiting the city's website to learn more about what's in the budget, the specific change items recommended by the mayor, as well as department by department information. And that's the end of my presentation. I'll hold for any questions.
Thank you. While I invite my colleagues to get in queue if they do have a question for staff, I want to recognize that we had 2 additional council members join us and ask them to voice their presence for the record. First is Councilmember Ellison.
Present, thank you.
Thank you. And then Council President Bender.
Here.
Thank you. Not seeing any questions for staff at this point, I will look to open up the public hearing. We have 5 speakers signed up to speak today. We will be taking speakers in the order that they are registered. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to address the committee. We have a timer to help keep speakers monitor the use of their time, and you will hear a buzzer when your time is up. When you are called on to speak, please press star and then 6 to unmute your phone. If you wait just a moment, you'll hear a recorded message that says you're unmuted before you begin speaking. So let's see, I will first call on Anna Schmitz. Welcome. I think
my name is Anna Schmitz.
Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
There we go.
Go right ahead.
Great. My name is Anna Schmitz. I work at Fair State Brewing Cooperative. I'm testifying on behalf of 35 small businesses who are continuing to look for public safety leadership in the city. We have 3 basic funding asks: safer response, safer staff, and safer spaces. We believe safer response would look like expanding the city's alternative response options by expanding 2021's mobile mental health teams to respond to homelessness and addiction calls. Of course, that also requires that those teams have passed the background checks that haven't happened yet, as far as I know. We believe safer staff looks like investment in public spaces, including public bathrooms. This would ensure that basic public services are funded publicly rather than relying on private businesses to provide those services. We believe safer spaces looks like free training offered through the city to small business staff for de-escalation, Narcan administration, and basic first aid. Here at Fair State, we train our own staff in those 3 areas with our own money, and we've already used both the first aid and de-escalation training skills since doing so. These are basic, straightforward requests based on detailed discussions we've had with dozens of local small business owners. The proposals are supported by research and based on the idea that government should provide basic services that people need. We look forward to seeing them move forward by the council and the mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Second in queue, and please correct me if I say your name wrong, is Lana Aylesworth. Lana, if you could press star 6.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak today, council members. My name is Lana Aylesworth. Thank you, that was correct, Chair. I am the secretary for the Minneapolis Arts Commission representing Ward 11. And today we come to you with a question. Should the city of Minneapolis have a poet laureate? We believe in the necessity of arts as a community response, and we can see certainly how a poet laureate would symbolize the city's prioritization and fundamental value of artistic contribution as civic response and engagement. So with that in mind, in October, Minneapolis Arts Commission approved a plan to create a poet laureate work group to envision what that position would look like, also including a component to mentor a youth poet laureate. So we believe it is crucial that the city of Minneapolis not be left behind in what other cities, even those adjacent to us, cities like St. Louis Park, Anoka County, and St. Paul, have been implementing for years. If the city of Minneapolis truly desires to be an artistic destination, we must promote all of the arts, and this program is an essential way to lift up literary artists in our city. With the goal of creating a 2022 Poet Laureate to be announced in April, that would coincide with National Poetry Month, we have shared here for the public record our working documents developed through research of peer city Poet Laureate programs, and which will also continue to evolve as we call in more ideas from our community. In the first month since our work group was approved by the Arts Commission, we have expanded to include representation from the Loft Literary Center and Hennepin County Library, and we will continue to refine this with input from the arts community. The Poet Laureate position would be a 2-year service appointment with a mentorship role to a youth poet laureate in the 2nd year. In coordination with literary partners in Hennepin County Library, the Poet Laureate would participate in events, workshops, and readings presenting in at least 3 wards of the city over the first year of their term. In the second year of their term, they'd be able to design their own events in conjunction with mentoring that youth poet laureate for the duration of the year. A total budget allocation of $40,000 from the city would support a 2-year poet laureate position, a 1-year youth poet laureate mentorship, public events, and administrative costs for the program. So we envision that the applicants and nominations for this program would begin in January, would be open for 2 months, whereafter a stipend paid selection panel composed of poets, educators, and arts organization professionals around the city would select a candidate. Throughout Minneapolis.
Thank you,
thank
Lana. That was the timer was the 2-minute
I didn't hear
mark.
it. I apologize for that. A poet laureate would be great. Please consider it for a placement in the budget. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you for your testimony. Third in our queue today is Abigail Rothschild. Abigail, please press *6 and wait for the phone to unmute.
Hello, council members. My name is Abigail Rothschild, and some of you may know me as the Government and Legislative Affairs Local Coordinator for the Minnesota Student Association at the University of Minnesota. I come to you today to speak about the neighborhoods surrounding the University of Minnesota's Twin Cities campus and the startling increases in crime that have been occurring and continue to damage the already low perception of safety that many of our students feel. The university has put in place a number of public safety measures to ensure the safety of our students, including a safety ambassadors program. They've installed more emergency blue lights and a limited number of mobile lighting trailers. However, there is a need for outside funding in order to undertake that task of installing pedestrian level streetlights. And given that these neighborhoods are outside the university property, the increased lighting would mean increased property taxes for the property owners around the university, but many of whom rent their properties out to students. And there is an overall shared passion and drive among many stakeholders within and outside of the university community to increase student safety through increased lighting. And on behalf of the Minnesota Student Association, the Dinkytown Business Association, and the UMPD, we do ask for your fiscal support in pursuing this project and allocating some of those funds to student communities neighboring Minnesota's largest public university to ensure the safety of our students. And I hope to have the chance to elaborate further on this proposed allocation of city funds. And I want to thank you for your time and consideration in this impending public safety matter. Thank you.
Thank you. The public hearing queue testifier number 4 is Julie Strove. If you're on the line, please press *6 and unmute your line.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I didn't realize I had 2 minutes, so I'll talk fast. Since I'm speaking today on behalf of seniors in the city of Minneapolis who have lived and worked here for decades. Since 2018, my taxable market value has increased by $46,000. My homestead exclusion has decreased by $2,000, over $2,000. The imperative today is to find a way to keep Minneapolis seniors in their homes. One of my neighbors said, it's obscene. It for sure will drive people who have owned homes for 30 years out of Minneapolis because they're on a fixed income. But maybe that's what the council wants, ? Then the houses sell and property values go up, so the property tax revenue actually goes up by forcing elderly and low-income people out of the city. Another woman commented that we have worked and lived in Minneapolis for several decades and have supported our city during that time. Now we want our city to honor our work and commitment by making it possible to remain here on fixed income. We all must be part of the solution. I propose property tax increase abatement for seniors on fixed income. Of course, this would be done with proof of income until the property is sold or the homeowner dies. We simply cannot remain on this unsustainable path. and I leave it in your capable hands to find a way forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Number 5 in our queue this afternoon is Steve Kramer. Go ahead and unmute your line.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Council members, for the opportunity to make brief comments on the Mayor's proposed 2022 budget. On behalf of the Minneapolis Downtown Council, I'd like to offer our support for the document you are considering. Overall, the Mayor's proposal is balanced and addresses the key challenges facing Minneapolis and the city government enterprise. It could be, though, that results from the fall election have raised the need for investments that weren't anticipated earlier in the year, most prominently preparing for implementation of the provisions of Question 1 in terms of the Council's role and responsibilities moving forward. My hope is an important part of that role will be an energetic process to engage and hear input from citizens and stakeholders on the range of critical issues facing Minneapolis. Consistently hearing a broad range of perspectives will aid in the legislative and policymaking process the voters have asked the Council to take on with new vigor. The election definitely reinforced the importance of the Mayor's public safety plan. It too is multifaceted, as is the budget overall. The recommendations reflect a continued commitment to a holistic, multifaceted approach to public safety, which is the approach the business community embraces and invests in as well through the work of the Downtown Improvement District. It is especially important to support the investment in 5 recruit classes in 2022. MPD needs to be built back in numbers and in culture to be an effective, trusted, and just component of the overall public safety approach in our city. The Mayor's proposed budget points exactly in that direction, and again, I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not seeing additional speakers, but I will ask if there are any more speakers on the line. I did receive an email from someone who was having difficulty that were not given the instructions on how to participate. So if there are other speakers on the line that would like to talk, could I ask you to press *6 and voice your presence? I know that there are more than 5 people interested in our city budget. Hearing none at this time, I will now close today's public hearing. I want to thank everyone who took time to testify today and invite you to stay engaged in the budget process. I want to thank our professional staff for their incredible work on bringing forward this budget to finance the city's operations and deliver municipal services. But I'd also like to reiterate that the City Council will be conducting 2 additional public hearings. Those are scheduled for December 1st and December 8th. Both of those hearings start at 6:05 p.m. At the December 1st hearing, the Budget Committee will consider amendments to Mayor Frye's proposed budget. Sorry, after the December 1st hearing. It's actually December 3rd that we have reserved for the bulk of that work, and that meeting will begin at 10 a.m. Additionally, we have a meeting scheduled on December 6th to do any final cleanup if we don't complete our business at the December 3rd meeting. Those markup sessions, as with all of our meetings, are broadcast on the city's TV channel and live streamed on the city's website. Additionally, I'll note that if property owners have questions about their property valuation or classification, please contact the assessor's office via email at assessor@minneapolismn.gov, or you can call 612-673-2730. With that, we've concluded all our business to come before committee today. So without objection, we stand adjourned. Thank you for your time.